Final segment, Sons of the Shoe. Spencer German with you. Appreciate you jumping on in. And we have the return of a segment we did more so during the season last year, but I'm reviving it because, guys, I said at the top of the show, we're only 8 Saturdays out. By the way, as I was waiting through that last break, it hit me. I completely blanked on one of the coaches that actually is probably top 3 in terms of pressure next year with Ryan Day and Kalen DeBoer. Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame. How the hell did I forget about Notre Dame? Probably just because they're independent and I sort of blocked them out of my mind. Until they join the Big Ten, they mean nothing to me. They're just nameless gray faces, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I forgot about Marcus Freeman. Marcus Freeman has a lot to prove at Notre Dame beyond just making the expanded playoff, which seems likely for them now on a consistent basis. But yeah, like it's time for them to sort of put up or shut up and actually be performing at a level where you're competing in that tournament. So Marcus Freeman is a good one. Marcus Freeman is a good one. I'm sure some of you probably are going to call me on that when I cut this up and have the individual segments after that first segment. You're all going to say Marcus Freeman. But I caught myself. You just got to get to the third segment to hear it. All right. Anyway, guys, we are reviving a segment that we used to do during the season. It used to be called Fourth and Short, Fourth and Long, whatever it was. I don't know, but I'm rebranding it. And it is now known as 4 Down Territory, where we cover 4 different topics that are surrounding Ohio State or the college football landscape at the moment. And we start with topic number 1, our first down topic, which is EA Sports releasing this week as they continue to roll out more and more about the very hyped college football 25 video game. The top 5 or the top 10 college football environments that in the game that'll make it hard when you're playing in these specific venues. Now, their list starts with number 1, Kyle Field, on the way down. We got Bryant-Denny Stadium where Bama plays, Tiger Stadium for LSU, our friendly confines, Ohio Stadium for the Buckeyes, Georgia Bulldogs, Sanford Stadium is number 5. You got Beaver Stadium, number 6, Camp Randall Stadium, number 7, Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium, which is Oklahoma, obviously, number 8. Doak Campbell Stadium, where Florida State plays, is number 9. And Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, where the Gators play, the Swamp, better known as the Swamp, is number 10. This list is pretty good. Pretty good. I will respect the list. It's a pretty solid list. But I have my own top 10 because I think they got some of these woefully wrong. I think, first of all, number 1 has to be Tiger Stadium for the LSU Tigers. That place, all I ever hear about is how raucous it is, how insane it is. They've caused earthquakes before. Spare me Kyle Field being number 1. It's Tiger Stadium. Number 2, maybe some Big Ten bias here, but I've also been to games there numerous times. Beaver Stadium, where Penn State plays, has to be number 2 in my opinion. And so I bumped them up. Those whiteout games are something you've never experienced anything like it before. If you've had to play in that environment, like it's ridiculous. It's crazy. And I do think a lot of times that works to their advantage in the games that they host as whiteout games because the crowd is so crazy and raucous. So I'm putting Beaver Stadium 2. Number 3, we got Bryant-Denny Stadium. So I'll give some love to Alabama. Their environment is very, very good when their fans are staying and sticking around for a good matchup because, Nick Saban always used to complain about fans leaving early for some of the nobody games, but there you go. I don't know how this stadium wasn't on wasn't in the top 10 for college football 25 for best environments, but Neyland Stadium, where Tennessee plays. How is Neyland Stadium not on there? That should absolutely be top 10. All I ever hear about is that place being tough to play. So I have them number 4. I have Ohio Stadium. No, sorry. I have Ben Hill Griffin Stadium for the Gators, the Swamp, number 5. I have Ohio Stadium, number 6. I think Ohio Stadium is in the top 10. It deserves to be in the top 10. Just from my experience, and I haven't gone to the bigger games in the last, I haven't been there for any of the biggest matchups. I'm always although that'll change this year because I got myself and my wife tickets to Ohio State, Michigan this year. So I'll be in there with many of you supporting the Buckeyes, and we'll see how that game turns out. But I digress. Maybe my opinion will change. But I think for now, Ohio Stadium belongs in the top 10. I have them 6. Sanford Stadium in Georgia, I have 7. Another one that I was surprised wasn't on the list for college football 25 Virginia Tech's Lane Stadium. Lane Stadium is a fantastic place to take in a game from everything I hear. You got the Enter Sandman that they play. I mean, that place is fan freaking tastic, and it seems like it's such a tough crowd when they're really into it, and you got a good game. I'm surprised they weren't in the top 10. So I put them on there at 8. And then I've got Camp Randall, number 9, and I'm taking the college football 25's number 1 toughest place to play, and in Kyle Field, and I make it at number 10. Texas A&M loses so many damn games at home. It's at this point, it's not even funny. Like I still think it's a good venue. They call themselves the 12th man. I've always wondered about that though, because it's not like Texas A&M has been doing a lot of winning in front of that crazy 12th man crowd that they claim to have. So I don't know. I'm putting them 10. If that gets the Texas A&M fans mad on YouTube and they're jumping in the comments of the 92 to the Fan YouTube channel, so be it. I'll live with it. I'll own it. But that's my top 10. What is your top 10 for the best college football playoff or college football playoff? What would you make the top 10 list of best college football environments based off of what EA Sports put out this week for college football 25? We go to second down, and in second down, we're sticking with the video game college football 25 because the official team power rankings were released this week as well. And Ohio State came in second with a 93 overall, tied with Oregon, who also comes in at a 93 overall. I think that these are pretty fair. I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and break down video game rankings. It's like the whole Madden thing when players say, well, this isn't high enough and that isn't high enough for me. We don't have to do that. That's not for us. But it is fun to talk about. I think Ohio State being 93 behind Georgia, who's 95 overall on the top team, makes a lot of sense. Georgia's bringing a lot back, and they obviously have the best quarterback in college as a returning starter this year. So I think that's probably fair to have them. And I think it's the same conversations we've been having just in terms of overall rankings. But I'll tell you, man, seeing Ohio State and Oregon so high on this just gets me more and more excited about the potential showdowns between those two teams, not just this year, because we know what's happening this year, but in future years to come. And seeing those two teams duke it out for the Big Ten this year is going to be a lot of fun. So, by the way, Michigan on this list is 11th, 88 overall. They have the same ranking as Penn State, who's 9th overall, Utah, who's 10th overall, Florida State, who's one spot below, 12th overall, Miami, who's 13th. A lot of 88s. Texas A&M is an 88 overall, 14th and 15th overall. Ole Miss also an 88 overall. So there you go. Colorado, 87 overall. How about that? Iowa sneaking in 87 over. All the rest basically from 16 on, all these teams have 87 overall rankings, including Iowa, who sneaks in with that stout defense of theirs at 25th. So there you go. But I think this was pretty fair. I thought it was pretty fair. Speaking of pretty fair, we go to third down, which brings us to PFF released. This was now a couple weeks back, but they released their best team at every position entering the 2024 season. I'll read this off for you here. No surprise that Georgia was their top rated at the position in terms of quarterback. Carson Beck coming back makes a ton of sense. Running back, your Ohio State Buckeyes, which again, ton of sense there when you got Quinshon Judkins and you got Travion Henderson. The next one is interesting, and I think this one, there's certainly some debate to be had, and I think Ohio State could have been in the conversation for this. I didn't go look up if they did like all the positions and like where, or every team for every position, where they sort of fall in line, like if Ohio State was second, third, fourth, whatever, behind them. But they have Oregon number 1 for wide receivers and tight ends. I think this is pretty fair based on like guys who have proven themselves. I mean, Tez Johnson was a 1,000-yard receiver last year for them, plus 10 touchdowns. He's going to be really, really good again this year, and I'm expecting that for sure. Plus, you had Dylan Gabriel into the mix as a transfer. Like their quarterback receiver situation is going to be great. And as another transfer, you get Evan Stewart in from Texas A&M, who had like 500 yards last year. I think 600 yards his freshman year. He's going to add to that group. And their tight end, Terrence Ferguson, more proven at this point as than anything that Ohio State currently has as a senior coming back on this team. So I think it's probably fine that Oregon's there, but I do think that's one to watch because if Jeremiah Smith really is the bee's knees, like we keep talking about, like we mentioned last segment, we could be feeling differently about the wide receiver rooms across college football. And Penn or Ohio State rather might end up topping that list because like it's basically just like it is a minefield of wide receiver talents that are just waiting to be explode or be set off by getting their opportunity. Offensive line, Alabama is number one. No surprise there. Bama's always really good. They had the whole Caden Proctor situation as he transferred to Iowa then back. So yeah, that they're up front. They're always one of the best, most physical teams, and that's an area of weakness for Ohio State, which I'm sure we'll talk about more leading up to the season. Now, defensive side of the ball, this is where things get fun because of the three position groups. Ohio State dominates two of them. Defensive line, no surprise there when you got all the guys coming back that you have coming back. JT Tuimoloau, obviously Jack Sawyer, Ty Hamilton, Tyleik Williams. Like this group is stacked. We're expecting big things from them, and so is PFF, which is why they're number one. Linebacker goes to Clemson. Fine, I don't care. And although the linebackers do matter more in college, I think, than they do in the NFL. Sometimes I don't mean to downplay the linebackers. They matter in the NFL. I just mean like having. I think it's more important to have a great defensive line, a great secondary, which is the other position that Ohio State has came in number one on PFF's list. That is defensive backs, playing into the idea that they are, as they call themselves, BIA, best in America. Do you agree with that list? Ohio State number one at every position in terms of a best team at every position at running back, defensive line, defensive backs. Did they get anything wrong? Should they be number one at wide receivers, tight ends as well? Let us know your thoughts there. And we move finally to fourth down to get us out of here on this week's episode. What team are you most worried about in the Big Ten? Now, it's an interesting question because the obvious answer in previous years would be Michigan. And I still think Michigan, they're always in the back of our minds, right? We're always thinking about them. We're always wondering if this is the year Ryan Day finally beats them, whatever. I'm actually more worried about the team I mentioned in the EA Sports top 25 power rankings for the video game. I'm worried about Oregon. I mean, this year, they are your biggest challenger. I know there's a lot of demons with Michigan that you got to get past, and I know that there's like, that's going to come in November. But that Oregon game, and maybe it's just because it's earlier in the schedule, that Oregon game could be like a potential Big Ten championship game teaser or preview. It's a chance to see how these teams it's one of the first real matchups in the Big Ten, in this new thought Big Ten or new look Big Ten, between two like juggernaut programs. And if Ryan Day gets absolutely schooled by Dan Lanning, like that'll be very telling. So I'm definitely worried about that one. Even if they lose, it's not even that if they lose, the season still can be salvageable and it's okay, especially with the new playoff format and maybe a chance to beat them in a Big Ten championship game rematch type setting to, clinch a first round bye in the playoff. I can live with them potentially losing that game as long as they end up beating Michigan at the end of the season, which I'm anticipating. But the problem for me is like, how much of a threat are they going to be to your national championship hopes? All these different things. So yeah, I'm most worried about Oregon. I think I've said that on this show already, but Oregon's the answer for me. What team are you most worried about in the Big Ten this season? What environments are the best in college football? Did EA Sports get it right with their top 25 for the game, for the college football 25? And the best team at every position, should Ohio State have been number one at receivers and tight ends as well as the other three spots that they own? You can answer all those questions at the 92 Through the Fan YouTube channel in the comment section. You can hit me up on X at Spencito_. All great ways to get involved in the show. Other great ways to get involved with the show. You can like, follow, subscribe, whatever else it is that you can do at 92 Through the Fan. In the Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the 92 Through the Fan YouTube channel. Did I mention Apple Podcasts? I just did again. We appreciate you guys jumping on in with us. I will be back. Guys, 8 Saturdays left. 8 Saturdays left until we have college football tangibly on our TV screens again. I can't wait. I'm excited. We'll continue counting it down with you on this very show Sons of the Shoe. Until next time, talk to you guys again soon. And as always, go Bucks.